If this continues, it will be the death of college basketball. March Madness, the madness of March, owns sports. The NCAA tournament is where it's at. And what is the appeal? What is the allure? Anybody has a chance because of Cinderella. That's what gravitates you. So when we have, something, a system in place that says it's compromising that. If there was no NIL, if there was no trade portal, Shay, right? And you have zero, the mid-majors go 0-6 in the second round. Please, we ain't sweating that. But when you're able to point to rules that have been implemented that ultimately shows itself to have inflicted upon the game itself, that's dangerous.
This is one of those cases where I think two things can be true at the same time. This is one of those cases where I agree and disagree with Stephen A. Smith. As I was watching March Madness this past weekend, and no, I did not watch a single second of the women's tournament. But as I was watching the real March Madness this past weekend, something definitely felt off. It didn't feel like March Madness. The magic was missing. There were a handful of good games, but for the most part, a lot of these games were over by halftime. There was a lack of electricity with the live crowd. Hell, Charles Barkley, he was so bored, he admitted that he was not watching the games that he was being paid to analyze. Charles Barkley is sitting in a studio surrounded by TVs, and he wasn't even watching. But you know who was? You. The opening day of the tournament on Thursday averaged over 9 million viewers, the largest audience on record. And you know who will continue to watch? You. Over the weekend, there were thousands of complaints about March Madness. Where is George Mason? Where is Southeast Wiener Tech? Where is Cinderella? I miss Cinderella. Unfortunately, Cinderella wasn't invited to the ball this year, and from the looks of it, the rescinding of her invitation, it could be permanent. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. If you happen to stumble upon this video, be sure to check out my main channel, Behind the Line. Link to the main channel's in the description below. I understand the frustration with March Madness. I understand the disappointment in not seeing major upsets. I get it. It's exciting to see a 16 seed knock out a 1 seed. It's exciting to see a team like VCU go on a magical run to the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8. It's exciting to see the St. Peter's Peacocks, which is a curious name for a team, the Peter Peacocks. Might as well be named the Peter Beaters. But in the moment, it's exciting to see those teams make magical runs. But it's a difficult balancing act because once we get to the later rounds of the tournament, I want to see a bracket filled with powerhouses. I know fans are complaining right now, but you know who's not complaining? The networks. And I got a feeling that fans won't be complaining much longer. Listen to some of these matchups in the Sweet 16. Duke, Arizona, Auburn, Michigan, Kentucky, Tennessee, Purdue, Houston. These are matchups that would be fun to watch during the regular season. We could see Duke, Alabama, and Michigan, Michigan State in the Elite 8. Or we could see Duke, Kentucky, and Florida, Michigan in the Final Four. Hell, what if Arkansas is the Cinderella story this year? What if Arkansas makes it to the national championship and they're playing Kentucky? It would be John Calipari competing against his old program. I don't know about you guys, but I would watch that game. It appears that the Cinderella stories have been sacrificed for better matchups in the later rounds of the tournament, which makes sense because in order to gain something, you got to give something up. I know the Cinderella teams are nice, but would you really be excited to see Florida Gulf Coast against Michigan in the Elite 8? Would you be excited to watch George Mason, Kentucky in the Final Four? Me personally, I have a tendency to get bored with the Cinderella teams as the tournament advances. They're great stories in the first couple of rounds, but once we get into the later rounds of the tournament, I want to see the power teams. I want to see the legacy programs. Does NIL give these teams, the power teams, a clear advantage? Yes. But is NIL ruining March Madness? That remains to be seen. If the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 deliver, no one is going to remember the first 2 rounds of the tournament, but they got to deliver. The thing is, this was always going to happen once they started paying players. The system is far from perfect, but I feel like the system made college football better. It's consolidated the power teams into 4 or 5 conferences. It's damn near eliminated the cupcake games. 10 years ago, I could look at Alabama's schedule and see 2, maybe 3 compelling games because the other 9 games were against Southwest Mexico Tech. This year, Alabama has 2 cupcake games on the schedule. It's made college football better, but it remains to be seen if NIL has improved college basketball. Now, I thought the regular season was good this year, but that's mainly because of the influx of star players. The tournament is where it counts. So far, the tournament's been disappointing, but I think that will change this weekend. What about you? First 2 rounds were disappointing, but I think we are set up for a good run over the next couple of weeks. Are you good with Cinderella stories being sacrificed so more power teams can advance, which sets up more compelling matchups in the later rounds? You tell me. Sound off in the comments below. See you on the main channel.